What's up, Guardians, and welcome back, Titans. I'm Profane. Thanks for checking out the video. Since the release of the final shape, prismatic builds have taken over and have become one of the most used subclasses throughout the community. When it comes to Titans, there's a lot of advantages in running prismatic, and that's mainly the ability to cast 3 back-to-back consecrations whenever using frenzied blades. But as powerful as this combination and this subclass is, there's times where you just want the benefits of a standard subclass. So with that in mind, we will be going over the top 3 best non-prismatic builds that Titans should be using right now, whether that's because you don't have final shape or because you've just grown tired of prismatic. I will be including dim and Mobalytics links for all 3 builds down in the description, so if you need help setting up any of these builds, then be sure to check those out. We start things off with a Solar Sunbreaker build, featuring the Soul Invictus and Roaring Flames aspects, which will combine together to provide us with a lot of extra ability damage, ability regeneration, and health restoration. With fragments like Ember of Torches, Ember of Empyrean, and Ember of Tempering, we'll be able to maintain the benefits of Radiance and Restoration as long as we're engaged in combat, providing our weapons with an increase of 25% damage, as we grant ourselves with a continuous source of health recovery on the go. For maximum survivability, I would recommend running this build with the Lorelei Splendor Exotic Helmet, which will create additional sunspots for us, giving us alternate options towards inflicting extra damage, recharging our abilities, and restoring our health. This build will be most effective whenever using solar weapons that feature perks like Incandescent or Heal Clip. Incandescent will improve our capabilities of handling large groups of enemies, and Heal Clip will provide us with an additional source of regenerating health for not only us, but for allies as well. For our second build, we turn to the Void Energies, where we have an incredible Sentinel build, featuring controlled demolition and offensive bulwark aspects. This build is all about inflicting mass levels of void damage while we provide ourselves with a constant supply of void overshields, which is going to resist as much as 70% of incoming damage. This build has seen a significant rise in its performance with the new artifact mods like Power from Pain, Supernova, and Old God's Rights, which provide us with additional ways to trigger Devour and deal bonus damage against enemies. We've got fragments like Echo of Undermining, which is helping us weaken enemies, with fragments like Echo of Instability feeding off of that to give our void weapons volatile rounds. Everything about this build is very synergetic, and it's a really easy to use build. One of the most powerful exotics to use with this build will be the Doomfang Pauldrons, which will grant you with increased weapon damage and improved super regeneration, and that's going to pair up great with exotics like the Graviton Lance, Leviathan's Breath, the Slayer's Fang, or Collective Obligation, and legendary weapons that come with Destabilizing and Repulsor Brace. With several opportunities of triggering weakening effects against enemies, you'll be able to optimize on your overall damage with the Doomfang Pauldrons, and that's going to really benefit us here since we don't have the effects of Radiance. And the final non-prismatic build that we'll talk about today will be the Strand Berserker, featuring Banner of War and Into the Fray aspects. Banner of War gives this build such a tremendous advantage, as you'll increase the survivability of everyone on the team. When it's active, this sends out a steady pulse of energy that heals you and nearby allies. This also provides us with increased melee and increased sword damage, which makes this one of the most powerful close-range builds that Titans have. With Into the Fray and fragments like Thread of Warding, we'll be able to maintain the benefits of Woven Mail, which will give us a 45% increase in damage resistance. And with exotics like Wormgod Caress or Syntheseps, we'll gain a massive increase in our melee damage, making us even more effective at point-blank range. The use of Grapple will greatly improve this build's performance, as we'll have a powerful grapple strike that we can perform at the end, which will benefit from the bonus damage provided by Syntheseps or Wormgod. A trick in using Grapple is to grapple onto Tangles, just after throwing them at enemies. This way you give yourself a free grapple strike, since grappling onto Tangles instantly restores grenade energy, which does make the Navigator a great exotic weapon to use with this build. This build pairs up great with just about any shotgun, but those that include 1-2 Punch, Trench Barrel, and Surrounded will benefit the most. I like using Tractor Cannon with this build because we don't get any damage buffs like Radiance, so by triggering a 30% debuff against our enemies, we'll be able to delete even the biggest of enemies, even without Radiance. Unfortunately, we don't get the benefits of any Strand artifact mods right now, but by incorporating void weapons like the Tractor Cannon, the Basso Ostinato, or the Recluse, we can trigger the benefits of mods like Supernova, Old God's Rights, and even Power from Pain, which would provide us with Devour, improving our survivability and giving us extra grenade energy, making this an even better build. And with that, we've now covered 3 different top tier builds that do not require the use of prismatic subclasses. So whether it's because you don't own Final Shape or because you've grown tired of Prismatic, you'll find a ton of success out of using any of these 3 builds. And as I mentioned earlier, you can find the DIM and Mobalytics links for all of these builds in the description down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about these builds and what builds you've come to have the most success with. Let us know down in the comments below. Thank you as always for checking out the video. If you enjoyed and found it helpful, then be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated, and both really do help support the channel. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.